Hi, I'm Hillary Wynn, Custom Content Manager with Meister Media Worldwide, the publisher of CropLife magazine. I'd like to welcome Kurt Maertens, Technical Service Representative for BASF covering Eastern Iowa and Western Illinois. He is going to answer some questions about season-long weed control strategies that maximize herbicide performance, manage resistance, and protect ROI. But first, a little about Kurt. Originally from a grain and livestock farm in Northwest Illinois, Kurt graduated with a BS in crop sciences and an MS in weed science from the University of Illinois. Working in the crop protection industry for 25 years, Kurt has spent the last 14 working for BASF, utilizing his experience in agronomy, application, and crop protection to support retailers and growers while also conducting product research and launching new innovations. Kurt, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Kurt, what are the most important steps farmers can take to ensure weed control throughout the year, maximize herbicide effectiveness, protect crop safety, and ensure long-term weed control success?
The first thing I look at when working with our customers, with our growers, is understanding or having them understand, or we learn together, the weed pressure that's on their farm and in their fields, because it could change from field to field, and I've definitely seen that. So understanding what weeds are out there is number one, and then understanding, hey, do we have resistance to certain herbicide modes of action, and I can kind of help identify that depending on, again, seeing what weeds are out there and knowing the history of the herbicides used on these farms in the past, and we can kind of dial that into, hey, what herbicide programs then should we look at, which ones should we get away from, and which new innovations should we focus on.
How can farmers stay ahead of resistant weeds like pigweed and water hemp? What proactive measures are essential for season-long weed control, and how can solutions like status herbicide save the day when proactive strategies aren't implemented?
When we understand the weeds that are on the farm, then we can put together a very effective multiple mode of action herbicide program. When we do that, if we put together multiple effective sites of action, each time we add a new effective site of action to the mix, it reduces our chances of developing resistance to any one single mode of action. So again, we start off with a minimum of 2, and if we can work our way up there up to 3 or even 4, that's really the goal there, especially when we have really problematic weeds like I see in my area, which is water hemp. So we go from there, and then we have a all hands on approach. We don't let anything go to seed. That's important, because if it's not producing seed, it'll be less of a problem next year. If we do that for multiple years in a row, we can whittle away at the seed bank, so that the seed that's in the soil. With water hemp, the good news is seed doesn't last very long. In 3 to 5 years, not letting anything go to seed, we can really start whittling away at that population. Now we utilize a herbicide like Status post-emergence in corn. It's because of its great knockdown power, and because a lot of the weeds that I see in my area, with water hemp especially, becoming HPPD resistant. It's not an HPPD herbicide. It's dicamba based, and again, it's a big hammer on the water hemp that's used to seeing HPPD. So we're really mixing up, again, adding in that different mode of action, effective mode of action, in combating weed resistance.
Resistance management, it's such a moving target, especially with pigweed and water hemp, isn't it?
It sure is. Again, working with growers, just have to understand that we can't throw the same herbicide mode of action at it year after year after year and expect things to change. And again, working with our growers, I help them to understand that, to identify the problem, and give them lots of different options of moving forward away from those HPPD herbicides.
Amid increasing financial concerns, how can growers balance herbicide costs with yield protection to ensure every dollar spent delivers the highest return on investment throughout the season?
Every year, the dollars that we spend on our inputs are critical, right? I understand that. We all understand that. What I try to get when I get together with customers, what I try to reiterate is that the dollars that we spend on herbicide are critical for not only for this year in reducing that weed competition, but we got to think about the future as well, because we already have enough weed seed out there. When I think about the water hemp, I mean, that's just the amount of weed seed in our fields is quite a lot. We don't want to be adding to that. That just kicks the can on down the road. It creates problems later on. So again, good management now is actually going to reduce our costs in the future. And I can work, usually I can work with customers to put together a reasonable program that's very effective with multiple modes of action. So we just don't want to give up on that aspect of our inputs here, because again, the consequences can be great on down the line. We don't want that to happen either.
It's really about viewing those herbicide decisions through the ROI lens, isn't it?
It sure is. Yep.
How do Group 15 herbicides like Zidua SC and certain help farmers reduce late season weed pressure? What additional benefits do Group 15 herbicides bring to the table?
So another strategy that I work with my growers on is we've got to use more residual herbicides, not half rates, it's the full rates. Because when we look at controlling specifically my area water hemp, we some of our most effective herbicides are the residuals in the group 15s especially. And when I dive into the group 15s, it's Zidua that's extremely effective because it's a long lasting residual and its activity on water hemp. And then Certain herbicide, which contains Zidua in it, along with another effective site of action in our encapsulated Kixor. Okay, those AIs together very effective as a residual on our water hemp. Now we have to have them on and activated before the water hemp germinates, right? But once we have that in place, that long lasting residual is going to take care of a lot of those earliest flushes of water hemp. And then that allows for timely post applications, like we follow up with status, like we've talked about earlier, right? That's that 1-2 punch, right? We got to give this water hemp the 1-2 punch, along with a little more layered residual with that status. That gets us to crop canopy. Once we get our corn to canopy, we shut the sunlight off to the soil surface and we stop the emergence of that water hemp. So given that water, we got to give that 1-2 punch, strong residuals up front, take out those that do make it through, add a little more residual, and get us to canopy.
What challenges are you seeing in the fields? What recent herbicide and trait innovations are giving farmers greater flexibility, longer control, and better environmental performance as they navigate the season?
Again, we continue to have newer innovations with some traits that certainly helps. Um, Again, innovation like our Certain herbicide as a pre-emergence. Again, that contains higher rates of Zidua, another effective site of action, and then encapsulated Kixor. We combine that, we can tank mix that. That's the nice part about the herbicide. We can tank mix a lot of other AIs with it. If we need to add in an HPP or atrazine, we can add that in the mix as well. And getting us up to multiple effective sites of action, right? Or multiple sites of action to help combat our weeds. And then again, our focus on the post emergence, knocking out those weeds and adding more layered residual in, like we could add some Zidua SC to that status in the post pass to give us more residual. But as I look on down in the future, we're already utilizing glufosinate or products like Liberty Ultra right now in soybeans. I've got a lot of customers that are starting to incorporate that into corn as well. And of course, we have to have glufosinate enabled corn to be able to do that. Good news is, it's my geography, a lot of those acres are enabled for that as well. So again, adding in another effective site of action. You know, we utilize all these again to control of our weeds and not let anything go to seed, therefore reducing the amount of weed pressure that we can have or that we would potentially have in future years.
Yeah, it's definitely good to have that flexibility of all those different options depending on, what weed pressures are appearing from year to year.
Yeah, for sure.
What lessons from the 2025 growing season should guide farmers as they plan next year's herbicide programs? How can farmers best prepare for the emerging resistance and cost challenges in 2026?
Boy, that is a great question and a great setup for the discussions that I'm having with my customers right now. What I saw work extremely well is, again, and I already hit on this, is having our residuals out and activated early and those fuller rates of our residual herbicides. Because once we start off in good shape ahead of the water hemp that does emerge later is less, it's smaller, it's easier to control. And instead of being behind the water hemp, we're ahead of it. And this is for both corn and soybeans. So again, something that I saw this year, folks that really loaded up that residual rates early, both in corn and soybeans, and got it on and activated, we're not chasing the water hemp. And therefore they weren't spraying all summer long. They got their pre-on, they got their post-on, they were done, crop canopied, set them up for some really nice yields that we've seen here, especially in Western Illinois and Eastern Iowa this year, by geography. So we got to stay ahead of it, keep the residual rates up, spray the water hemp when it's small, right, and use multiple effective sites of action.
Yeah, the lessons from this year can really set the stage for what needs to happen next year. Where can our audience go for more information?
Well, we want to make sure our customers here today can reach out to your local BASF retailer and representatives, and always get online and check us out. All the innovations that we've talked about here today, Certain and staff specifically, a lot of great information online.
Kurt, thanks again for taking the time to talk with me today.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on here today.